I built the Dangote Refinery to end Nigeria's fuel imports. Now Africa will lead the global energy market.
Something incredible is happening in Nigeria, a country famous for its massive oil reserves. For years, Nigeria sent millions of barrels of crude oil to other countries every month. It was known as Africa's biggest oil producer, the heart of West Africa's energy economy. But in early 2024, something surprising happened. For the first time ever, the United States sent more crude oil to Nigeria than Nigeria sent to the US. This was a historic moment that made people around the world take notice. It might seem like a sign that Nigeria was struggling, but that's not the full story. Instead, this change shows that Nigeria is building something huge, something that could change the way the world thinks about oil and power. This is the story of the Dangote Refinery, a $20 billion project that's not just Africa's largest refinery, but one of the most ambitious energy projects in the world. It's a story about one man's dream, Aliko Dangote, and how it's putting Nigeria and Africa on the global map in a new way. Let's start with the numbers that shocked the global oil industry. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, in February 2025, the U.S. sent 111,000 barrels of crude oil per day to Nigeria. In March, that number jumped to 169,000 barrels per day. Meanwhile, Nigeria only sent 54,000 barrels per day to the US in February and 72,000 barrels in March. For the first time in history, the US became a net exporter of crude oil to Nigeria, a country known for having some of the largest oil reserves in Africa. At first, this sounds strange. Why would an oil-rich country like Nigeria need to import oil? The answer lies in a massive new project, the Dangote Refinery. This $20 billion facility needed a specific type of oil called light sweet crude to start operating. The US, with its huge shale oil fields, had plenty of this type of oil, while Nigeria's refineries weren't fully ready to process its own crude yet. This wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a sign that Nigeria was gearing up for something big. To understand why Nigeria was importing oil, we need to look at what the Dangote Refinery is and why it's so important. This isn't just any refinery, it's a game changer for Nigeria and all of Africa. Located in the Lekki Free Trade Zone near Lagos, Nigeria's biggest city, the refinery covers an area of 2,635 hectares. That's about the size of 7,000 football fields. It can process 650,000 barrels of crude oil every day, making it the largest single-train refinery in the world. A single-train refinery means it processes all the oil in one connected system, which makes it more efficient and cheaper to run. The Dangote Refinery doesn't just make petrol gasoline, it also produces diesel, jet fuel, liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) for cooking, and polypropylene, a material used to make plastics. It even has its own deep-sea port, which can handle giant oil tankers called Suezmax ships. This makes it easier and cheaper to bring in crude oil and send out refined products. The refinery is a massive project that shows Nigeria's ambition to take control of its energy future. For decades, Nigeria faced a strange problem. Even though it has huge oil reserves and pumps over 1.3 million barrels of crude oil per day, it couldn't produce enough fuel for its own people. The country had to send its crude oil to other countries, like those in Europe, to be refined into petrol, diesel, and other products. Then Nigeria had to buy those refined products back, spending billions of dollars every year. Reports say this cycle cost Nigeria more than $10 billion annually. This meant Nigeria was losing money to middlemen in other countries, while its own people often faced fuel shortages. Sometimes, Nigerians had to wait in long lines at fuel stations just to buy petrol. The Dangote Refinery was built to fix this problem. It was designed to refine Nigeria's own crude oil and produce enough fuel to meet the country's needs. By doing this, Nigeria could save billions of dollars and stop depending on other countries for fuel. To get the refinery started, it needed a lot of crude oil, including the light sweet crude that the US produces. That's why Nigeria imported oil from the US in early 2024. It was a temporary step to get this massive project up and running. The Dangote Refinery wouldn't exist without Aliko Dangote, a businessman from Kano, Nigeria, who is often called the richest man in Africa. His vision was to build a refinery so powerful that it could change Nigeria's economy and make Africa a leader in the global energy market. Dangote saw the problem of Nigeria exporting crude oil and importing refined fuel, and he decided to do something about it. He invested $20 billion to create a refinery that could process huge amounts of oil and produce high-quality fuel and other products. This wasn't just about making money, it was about giving Nigeria and Africa more control over their resources and their future. The Dangote Refinery didn't just change Nigeria, it started changing the world. In its first year of operation, the refinery did something incredible. It began exporting fuel to other countries. It sent 1 million metric tons of petrol to Asia, where there's a growing demand for cleaner fuels. It also sent 2 shipments of jet fuel to Saudi Aramco, the giant oil company in Saudi Arabia. This was a big deal. Saudi Arabia is one of the world's biggest oil producers, and yet it was buying fuel from Nigeria. By mid-2025, the refinery had shipped 1.7 million barrels of jet fuel to the United States, carried by 6 large ships. These exports show that the Dangote Refinery is not just meeting Nigeria's needs, it's competing on the global stage. Countries like the US, Saudi Arabia, and those in Asia, which are some of the biggest energy markets in the world, are now buying fuel from Nigeria. This is a huge shift. For years, Nigeria was known for sending raw crude oil to other countries. Now it's sending refined products, which are worth more money and show that Nigeria can do more than just supply raw materials. The Dangote Refinery didn't just start producing fuel, it changed the way oil products move around the world. In the past, the global oil trade often flowed from richer countries in the global north, like the US and Europe, to poorer countries in the global south, like those in Africa. Nigeria's refinery flipped this pattern. Now fuel is flowing from Nigeria to places like Asia, the US, and even Saudi Arabia. This is a big deal because it shows that Nigeria is no longer just a supplier of raw materials, it's becoming a producer of valuable products that the world wants. This change is also a sign of Nigeria's growing power in the energy market. Instead of other countries refining Nigeria's oil and selling it back at a high price, Nigeria is now doing the refining itself. This means more money stays in Nigeria, and the country can use that money to grow its economy and improve the lives of its people. While the US and Saudi Arabia were making deals with Nigeria, Europe started to get nervous. For many years, European countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, and France controlled Africa's fuel market. Refineries in cities like Rotterdam, Antwerp, and Marseille would take crude oil from Nigeria, refine it, and sell the fuel back to Nigeria and other African countries. This was a huge business, worth more than $17 billion every year. European companies made a lot of money from this trade, and it seemed like nothing could challenge them. But the Dangote Refinery changed everything. In January 2024, OPEC, the organization that represents many oil-producing countries, warned that the refinery was starting to disrupt Europe's fuel exports to Africa. The reason is simple. The Dangote Refinery can produce more fuel than the 10 largest refineries in Europe combined. This means Nigeria no longer needs to buy as much fuel from Europe. African countries can now get their fuel from Nigeria, which is closer and often cheaper. As the Dangote Refinery produces more fuel, European companies are being forced to lower their prices or find new markets. Some may even have to reduce their supply or stop exporting to Africa altogether. This shift is not just about business, it's about power. For the first time, an African country is taking control of the fuel market in its own region, and Europe is feeling the pressure. To understand why the Dangote Refinery is such a big deal, we need to look at Nigeria's history with oil. Since gaining independence in 1960, Nigeria has been one of the world's top oil producers. It pumps over 1.3 million barrels of crude oil per day, which has brought in hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. But despite this wealth, Nigeria faced many problems. The country didn't have enough refineries to process its own oil, so it had to export crude oil and import refined fuel like petrol and diesel. This cost Nigeria tens of billions of dollars and made it dependent on other countries. This dependency led to another problem: fuel shortages. Even though Nigeria was rich in oil, ordinary Nigerians often had to wait in long lines at fuel stations to buy petrol. Sometimes there wasn't enough fuel, and prices were high. This was a frustrating situation for a country with so much oil. The Dangote Refinery is changing this story. It gives Nigeria the ability to refine its own oil, produce enough fuel for its people, and even export fuel to other countries. This is a step toward economic independence and a stronger future for Nigeria. The Dangote Refinery isn't just helping Nigeria, it's helping other countries in West and Central Africa. By producing fuel locally, Nigeria can supply petrol, diesel, and jet fuel to neighboring countries like Ghana, Togo, and Cameroon. This makes Nigeria a regional energy hub, a place where other countries come to buy fuel. This is important because it strengthens Nigeria's position in Africa and helps the region become less dependent on faraway countries for energy. Being a regional hub also means more money for Nigeria. When Nigeria exports fuel to other African countries, it earns foreign currency, which can be used to improve schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. It also creates jobs for Nigerians, as the refinery employs thousands of people directly and supports many more jobs in related industries like transportation and manufacturing. The Dangote Refinery is more than just a factory. It's a symbol of Africa's potential. For too long, Africa has been seen as a continent that supplies raw materials like oil or minerals to the rest of the world. Other countries would take those materials, process them, and sell the finished products back to Africa at a high price. The Dangote Refinery shows that Africa can do more. It can process its own resources, create high-value products, and compete with the biggest economies in the world. This refinery is also a sign that Africa is ready to lead. By exporting fuel to places like the US, Saudi Arabia, and Asia, Nigeria is showing that African countries can be global players. This is a new chapter for Africa, one where the continent takes control of its own destiny and builds a future based on its own strengths. The success of the Dangote Refinery has caught the attention of the world's biggest energy players. Countries like the US and Saudi Arabia are buying fuel from Nigeria, something that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. OPEC, which represents many oil-producing countries, is watching closely because Nigeria's refinery is changing the global oil market. Even Europe, which used to dominate Africa's fuel trade, is feeling the impact of Nigeria's rise. This global attention shows that Nigeria is no longer just a supplier of crude oil, it's a competitor in the global energy market. The Dangote Refinery is proving that Nigeria and Africa as a whole can produce high-quality products and sell them to the world. This is a moment of pride for Nigerians and for all Africans who want to see the continent succeed. The Dangote Refinery is about more than just oil. It's about economic independence. For years, Nigeria and other African countries have relied on other nations for things like fuel, technology, and manufactured goods. This dependency has held Africa back, making it harder for the continent to grow and prosper. The Dangote Refinery is a step toward breaking that cycle. By refining its own oil, Nigeria can save billions of dollars, create jobs, and build a stronger economy. This independence also means more opportunities for Nigerians. The refinery creates jobs for engineers, technicians, drivers, and many others. It also supports businesses that supply materials or services to the refinery. As Nigeria earns more money from exporting refined products, it can invest in schools, hospitals, roads, and other things that improve people's lives. The Dangote Refinery is a bold vision for Africa's future. It shows what's possible when someone believes in the continent's potential and takes action to make it a reality. Aliko Dangote's dream was to build a refinery that could change Nigeria and Africa, and he made it happen. This project is a reminder that Africa has the talent, resources, and ambition to lead the world. The refinery is also a spark that could light up Africa's industrial future. If Nigeria can build a refinery that competes with the biggest in the world, other African countries can do the same in their own industries. This could lead to more factories, more jobs, and more opportunities across the continent. The Dangote Refinery is not just a building, it's a symbol of what Africa can achieve when it takes control of its own resources and its own destiny. The story of the Dangote Refinery is a story for everyone who believes in Africa's potential. It's a story of how one country, one man, and one big idea can change the world. Nigeria's rise as an energy powerhouse shows that Africa is ready to take its place on the global stage. It's a reminder that the continent is full of possibilities, from its vast resources to its talented people. If you think this is the kind of Africa the world needs to see, share this story. Tell your friends, family, and anyone who might not know about Nigeria's incredible transformation. The Dangote Refinery is proof that Africa is not just a place of challenges, it's a place of solutions, innovation, and hope. Let's celebrate this moment and look forward to the bright future that Nigeria and Africa are building together.